Hi guys, it's Lily, and today I wanted to show you the 2016 Muji planner. So I got the idea from this from a comment that somebody very kindly left me on a previous video asking if I knew about this. And I said, no, I've never seen this. That sounds really interesting. And then I mentioned it to James, and he said, yes, I showed that to you when we were in Muji probably about a year ago. And apparently I said, I don't like that as much as Hobonichi, which sounds like something that I would say. But I decided to take another look at it. And I do really like it. I think that it's a very nice planner. And it's kind of similar to the Hobonichi in certain ways. So first of all, this is extremely affordable. It comes in two sizes, the A5 and the B6. And I went for the B6, which I'll show you a size comparison in a minute. It's kind of an unusual size, and I just went for that because I always gravitate towards A5s, and I thought that it would be nice to get something different, and I liked this size. I thought that it was cute. So the A5 costs, normally I think it's £7.95 in the UK, £7.95, which is like $10, and the B6 is £6.95. So like I guess around $9. And then when I bought it, they were 20% off. So I paid £5.50 for this, which is like, wow, like such a bargain. So it's really, really good value because I think you get, like quite a lot for that. And I like the fact that it's just cardboard and paper. So it's very sort of like low footprint, like there's no plastic in it. They do have vinyl ones, but you can opt for the cardboard cover. So for size comparison, the A5 is just like a standard A5. The B6, it's kind of an interesting size, which was why I went for it, even though, my sort of instinct said like, well, you should get A5 because that's sort of the standard size and you could put it in a notebook cover. But I thought this was interesting, and I don't have any B6 size planners. So if you compare this to the cousin, that's an A5 size in comparison, and this is the A6 Hobonichi, so it's like right between A6 and A5. So it's quite a nice size. It's compact, but it gives you more room than the A6 would. So I think that's quite a nice option, and this is the only planner that I've seen that offers a B6 size. It's kind of like a personal, maybe. Let me see. So this is a personal size Filofax, and it's almost exactly the same size. The personal is just like a little tiny bit wider and a tiny bit taller, if you can see that, but like just a smidgen. So that's really interesting. I'd never thought about that before. It's basically personal size is B6. So yeah, like I said, this is completely made out of cardboard, so it has a very sturdy cover. It's kind of like halfway between a hardback and a paperback book, I'd say. It's comparable to the Hobonichi cover. I'd say a little bit thicker. It's certainly like kind of, I think it's, I mean, I haven't, kind of tested this, but I'd say that it's durable enough to stand up on its own. So you can see like that's really, really thick card there. I would, if I were going to use this, and of course I have no idea what I would use this for, but I really just wanted to show it to you, and because it was so cheap, I kind of felt like it was justifiable. But if I were like to use this as my main planner, I would get the A5 size so that I could put it in a notebook cover, because it's so easy to get either like a Fodori cover, or I would put it in a Filofax Flex. I think like the A5 would fit perfectly in a Flex, just because like I like notebook covers, but you certainly don't need to. It's kind of rugged enough that you could just have it like this. I think probably if you're sort of putting this in and out of bags and carrying it around a lot, and with heavy usage, that this might get bent after a while, but I think it would stand up pretty well. So it comes in this, it's like a kind of beige, sort of natural, papery, woody color. And let's see if you can see it. The only decoration is that it says 2016. It's debossed here on the front. And then the side is just bound with this. It's very reminiscent of the Hobonichi Avec. So just to illustrate, this is my A6 Avec, and you can see it's a very similar style. Obviously the Hobonichi's got some more decoration, but the binding is very similar. And you can even see if that comes up, very, very similar binding style. So you can like kind of see the signatures underneath in both of them. So this is stitched. And there's nothing else, like there's nothing on the back. So it's very, very plain. I like this, like a very nice plain design. And when you open it, the first page is a kind of tan, slightly different shade, if you can see the comparison of the two of them. Sort of like a kind of different beige shade. And this is reasonably thick cardstock again, like nowhere near like the cover. And then it's plain on this side, and then it goes straight into a 3-year calendar. So this is the one thing that I find a bit annoying, is that this is like the page that you would normally expect to be the like kind of an end page. So like for example in the Avec, you've got that page, and then you have this, which like kind of doesn't have anything on it, and then the first printed page is on the other side of that. So like kind of when you look at the information that you need, it kind of sits well. Whereas on here, because I guess they've done this sort of to economize on paper, which I approve of. You know, I think that's quite a good thing, not to waste the paper. But the effect that it has is that you can see the whole year, but the stuff on the left is like a little bit, you sort of have to pull it all the way to the right. So that kind of irks me a little bit, but it's really a very, very minor complaint. And I can kind of understand why they've done it. This is like a very sort of like scaled down, no frills sort of planner, but not in a cheap way. It doesn't feel like it's sort of been done cheaply. It's very, very nicely done, nicely designed. It just is like kind of, it just gives you all the essentials, and it doesn't really sort of, you know, go in for a lot of other sort of decoration and extra pages. So if you see, I'll just bring this up a bit closer. It's got 3 years on it, 2015, 2016, and 2017. So a lot of planners seem to give you the previous year. And I guess there might be a time when that's useful. I personally don't think that I've ever needed to consult a previous year. But there might be a reason why you might have to have it. So, and then obviously the current year and the next year are all the same size. So I think I like the way that Hobonichi does it, where they give you the current year in bigger print, and that's like a whole page, because that's the one that you would presumably need to consult more often. But I feel like a lot of people, me included, don't really use this layout very much. I do sometimes look at it, just if I need to like have a sort of very, very like bird's eye view of the year, but not a huge amount. So I think in practical terms it's fine that it's not any bigger, because it gives you all the information you need. And it puts Sundays in red, and then also holidays, I think presumably Japanese holidays. And this is all in English only, this page, but it does give you, along with the Gregorian year, it gives you the year according to the era. Like, so this is the 27th year of this sort of era of the empire. So it's H27, H28, and H29. Those are the corresponding years on the like kind of Japanese era calendar. And then if you turn over onto the next page, it goes straight into the month on 2 pages, and it starts with December 2015. It doesn't actually label the year, so it just says December, the 12th month, but it's a 2016 planner, so obviously this is December 2015. And it's a Monday start, which I like. And very similar to the Hobonichi, again, it puts Sundays in grey. And it goes like, it gives you the whole month, and then it gives you sort of an extra blank week at the bottom, and then it gives you this blank space on the side here for notes. But I like how Also kind of like the Hobonichi, I think it doesn't tell you what to do with the space. It doesn't say like this is for notes or anything. It just gives you the space and you can do what you want with it. It's not lined and it doesn't have grids. Then we go into the next month. So this is January. Again, it doesn't give you the year. It just says January, and it has moon phases. And it also lists holidays. It's in English, but it lists like holidays in Japanese, and those are grayed out as well. So this is like kind of done in the same style as Hobonichi, where it gives you all of the months before it goes into the weekly schedule. And I like that. I find it really convenient to have all of the months in one place, because if I want to, like, I use this as sort of like at a glance, you know, like to check appointments so that I can schedule new things. So I like knowing that if I go to this section in the front, I'll find all of my months rather than having to look through them. But I know that there are people who prefer to have it the other way around, so that like you can kind of like look at your month and then look at the week straight away. So it's just personal preference. And here you can see some of the stitching, I think. So that's like the first signature, which, by the way, leads me to the point that it lays quite flat. Look at that. It's beautiful. Like, there are only a couple of cases where it might stick up a little bit, but basically it lays flat. So very similar to the Hobonichi in that respect. In terms of paper quality, it's very nice paper. It's reasonably white. Again, sorry, I keep comparing it to the Hobonichi because that seems like the sort of closest comparable planner. It's quite similar. If you have the A6 or the A5, not the Weeks, because the Weeks is more yellow, but it's pretty white, but not like blinding sort of bright white. So I'll just show you, compared to the Weeks, you can see that the Weeks is much creamier. It's really nice paper, very smooth feeling. It's not Tomoe River paper. It's a bit thicker, but it's pretty thin. It's very nice paper though. I'll do a pen test in a minute so we can see sort of like how it shows up with a couple of different pens, but it has a very nice, like, kind of smooth, creamy feel to it, if you know what I mean. So if we go through all of the months, they always give you this extra week at the bottom, which is kind of like the Paper Chase planner. The Paper Chase planner that I reviewed recently does the same thing. So like here you've got the end of this week, and then you have a whole extra blank week at the bottom, which is quite nice because then you can make notes. Because this is B6, it's not like you have a huge amount of space, but you can still write like kind of a few notes in each of these. So it goes until January 2017. And again, it doesn't label the year, but you know, this is obviously December 2016. And so you get an extra month for a little bit of forward planning. I wish that more planners would give you like the whole next year just in vertical format. The only one that I've seen that does that, I think that there might be some others, but the one that I can think of that used to do it was Moleskine. And I found it really convenient when I was using a Moleskine, because if you have like an event for, I don't know, like say July of the next year, you can just write it down and it's great. But I don't know why that's not a more common feature of planners. But anyway, it's a small issue, because if you have like some forward planning to do, you could always put it in the sort of margins here, which is what I do in my Hobonichi. So then we go straight into the weekly view. And a really nice feature, again, this is like the Hobonichi weeks. It starts at the very end of November, so the first full week of December. So if you're familiar with the weeks, it's like almost an identical layout to the weeks, except that the weeks gives you until March 2017 and it labels the years. But if you can see, this is the first week in the weeks, and it starts again on the 30th of November 2015. So you have all of that week. So if you got this, I mean, like any time in December, you'd be able to start using it straight away. And so it starts with, it gives you the number of the month and then the week number. So let's see here. 11, 12, and it's week 49. And then it gives you the previous month and the current month, and it highlights the week. So that's yeah. So when I'll show you what it does when we go ahead. But like this is November, which I think it's only put that on because this is kind of like part of November, like only one day of November, but it's part of November. But normally, if we go on to the next week, it will give you the current month and then also the next month, which is probably more useful. Like that's, I guess, if you wanted to look at this at all, that's what you would want to see rather than the previous month. And it's a Monday start again. So you have the number, the day number, and then the day of the week in English only. So it goes from Monday to Sunday, and obviously it gives you equal space per day. And a really nice thing, which again, it shares with the weeks, is that it divides this this horizontal the row. That's the word I'm looking for, not column, row. It divides the row into three. If you can see here, there are actually 1, 2, 3 very, very subtle dots, just like the weeks. So if you wanted to, you could divide this into 3 columns. So you could have like morning, afternoon, evening, or like work, home, personal, or appointments, to-dos, something else, if you see what I mean. So it kind of gives you the option of dividing it, but if you don't want to do that, you can just ignore it because it's just a tiny little dot. It has that on every one of these lines at kind of equal distance, so you could divide it if you wanted to. This is not lined, so like again, very, very similar to the weeks, except obviously the size is quite different. So if we compare this again in terms of size to the weeks is much, that's sorry, just take it out of its cover so that you can see exactly how it compares to the weeks. This is always something of a production, taking it out of the cover, but it will be worth it. So thank you for putting up with me. Okay, so the weeks is much narrower and just a little tiny bit taller. So if you got this B6 size, you would sort of have quite a bit more writing area than in the weeks. And so you can see that the week on one page, like for the weeks, it's a somehow the way that it's laid out, you have a little bit more space. The weeks kind of like economizes and makes use of all of the space, so it doesn't leave any blank space at the top, whereas this leaves quite a bit of blank space here, which I guess is kind of similar to how at the bottom of the weeks you have these 3 lines, but somehow this seems more conducive to making notes, maybe because it's lined. This you could still use for making notes, but because it's at the top of the page and it's next to the calendar, it somehow doesn't, to me anyway, maybe just because I'm used to the weeks, it doesn't feel quite as sort of like, it's not screaming like, use me for notes. It just seems like sort of wasted space. But it extends much further this way, so you have a lot more room kind of like to divide it into columns. Whereas for the weeks, I feel like, just for me anyway, it's like I don't think I could fit things into the columns if I divided it like this because it's quite narrow. Anyway, so that's your week. And then on the other side, you have a complete page of gridded paper. So the grids on this are quite big compared to the Hobonichi. I'd say compared either to any of them, to the cousin, the A6, or the weeks. And it goes all the way from the bottom to the top. So like unlike the Hobonichi, there's no blank space at the bottom. There are no quotes. You just get a whole sheet of gridded paper, which again, you could either use this, if this is enough for your weekly schedule, you could use this for to-do lists, or you could like kind of draw a line here so that you have like one kind of giant row per day, or you could like kind of just use this for notes and use this side. If this is enough, you could use this for appointments and to-dos. So it's like a very similar setup, this kind of verso setup, a week on one page and then a page of notes. So like Moleskine and Leuchtturm and paper blanks all have a design like this, but the difference is that this one has gridded paper, whereas those ones have lined paper, and I like the gridded paper better because it gives you more options and it's just nice. Like, who doesn't like gridded paper, right? So yeah, that's what it looks like. So the whole way through, it labels the week, it labels the month. It doesn't tell you what the year is, and it doesn't, unlike say the weeks, it doesn't spell out the month in words. It just gives you, like, so this just says 4, whereas this one says 4 and then also April, and it also gives you the year. This never gives you the year. So the only way that you would know that it's 2016 is by the cover. And then also because this calendar has got 15, 16, and 17 in it. But other than that, it's very, very non-committal in terms of the year. And that's how it goes all the way through. So we'll just go up until the end. So you've got the end of December, and then it kind of overlaps with the beginning of January 2017. And then it gives you another 5 weeks. Okay, so it gives you the first 5 weeks of 2017 up until the beginning of February, the first week of February. So like again, for this, you've got a bit of overlap, either if you wanted to do forward planning or if you just didn't get your next planner until then, which seems hard to believe that anybody watching this would not already have their next planner sorted out way before this, but you've got it there just in case you need it. And then you have a few pages just of grid paper. It's actually quite a few pages. So if you see all of this, it's 10 sheets, so 20 pages, which is quite a nice amount just of blank gridded paper. And then it ends kind of like this. It doesn't have a blank page. You know how like often they've got a sort of a blank page right before the end page? It doesn't. It carries on with the grids right up until the end, and then you have the end page and then the back cover. And that's it. So like I said, I feel like this is a sort of very like sort of scaled down, no frills version of sort of like a cross between the A6 Hobonichi and the Weeks. It's kind of like got some of the features of both of them. Obviously, if you went for the A5 size, it's exactly the same, but it's a bit bigger, so it would be the same size as this. But the layout on the inside is exactly the same. But again, it kind of reminds me, it would be bigger, but it would still remind me more of the Weeks because it's a very similar layout to the Weeks. So I think that this is a nice option if you like the Hobonichi style, but either like you sort of don't want to commit to an actual Hobonichi, or if you just sort of like, I don't know, you might have Hobonichis like myself, but you just kind of like, you like that style and you want another planner for something else that you don't want to invest that much money in. This is a really nice option because I think it's very well done. It's aesthetically pleasing. It lays flat. It's good quality, but it's really, really cheap. It's like one of the cheapest planners that I've seen. So, like even if you pay full price, it's still like either £7 or £8, depending on if you get the B6 or the A5. So I think it's really good value and it's really nicely done. And so I think it's a nice option. The one thing that I wanted to do is the pen test. Okay, so like I've said before, I don't use fountain pens, so I'm not like probably the best pen advisor because I use like pretty basic pens, but it's still just to kind of give you an idea of sort of how it stands up to like bleed through and stuff like that. So if we take this last gridded page, and we will start with my trusty friction pen. So this is actually an illusion. This is a retractable friction pen, which as far as I know only comes in the 0.7, but I've put a 0.5 refill in here because I don't like the 0.7 is too thick and it takes 0.5 refill. So this is actually a 0.5, but it looks like a 0.7. So if we write, let's say friction 0.5, that's that. And then this is a Kiki K metallic pen, 0.7. I don't think that's going to focus, but anyway, that's what it is. So we will say Kiki K metallic 0.7. And then this is a 0.5 gel pen. This is from one of the Happy Scrappy kits. Where's it going? Okay, there. So gel pen 0.5. And this is another gel pen. This is 0.35. This is also from Happy Scrappy. I think either that or the Paper Crafting Studio. So this is another gel pen. See, sorry, that's what I mean about how I'm not a great person for like pens, because I really only have friction pens and then the gel pens that I've got in subscription boxes, and these metallic pens, because I always use friction pens. But I think this should give us an idea of like kind of how it is. And you see, if you turn it over, there's really nothing. There's like tiny like shadow, the very faintest shadow, but like nothing from any of them. So like, again, I don't know if you're using a fountain pen, but I think, I mean, for like any of these pens, these are the pens that I would use. It's completely fine. So despite the fact that the paper looks kind of thin, and like in some cases you can sort of see through, so you can sort of faintly, you can see the numbers from the next page on that, but it's totally fine, like with all of those pens. So yeah, I think this is a really, really nice option, and thank you to the commenter for suggesting this to me. And I hope that you enjoyed this, and I'll be back again very soon with another video. Bye!